popular imaginary of green, vibrant, nature laden, wild places, Houston's not usually at the top of the list. There have been significant efforts, not least among them things like Bayou Greenways over the last decades, that have really worked to transform Houston, which used to be viewed purely as a concrete jungle, into what we now think of as the Bayou City, and recognizing that there is, in fact, nature all around us. And it's something we talk about a lot on the program. Despite that, there's still a lot of hesitation and a lot of young people in particular who don't have easy access to all of those spaces. What does it mean to connect with nature? What does it mean to be able to find places to get away and experience wilderness right where we live? And more than that, to think deeply about it, to engage with it, to learn about how the nature around us functions, how it serves us, how we can serve it, and how do we think through that in ways that unlock our creative potential to reconnect with the world around us? Well, today we're sitting down with someone who has made an entire career out of utilizing art to help us do exactly that through the teaching of science and the preservation of natural spaces. I'm Weston Twardowski, the Associate Director of Rice's Center for Environmental Studies and Associate Director of Eco Studio and Rice's Sustainability Institute, and you're listening to Gulf Streams on KPFT Houston 90.1 FM, Galveston 89.5 FM, and Huntsville 89.7 FM, where we talk with leading experts and community leaders to better understand the environmental problems and potential solutions facing our community. A quick reminder that you can catch up on Gulf Streams anytime through our podcast, available on all major podcast platforms. If you enjoy the show, please like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Karla Klay is the executive director and the founder of Artist Boat, a conservation and arts education about scientific questions and the environment in Galveston. Delighted to get to sit down with her and learn about Artist Boat's work conserving our natural environment, thinking about Galveston as a hub for learning, and bridging art and science. Karla Klay, welcome to the program.
Hi, Weston. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to see you. I'm so glad we're going to get to chat about you and Artist Boat and the work that you're doing in Galveston. Just to start off for our listeners, can you introduce yourself a little bit? You're the executive director at Artist Boat, but I think a lot of folks, maybe aren't familiar yet with the work that you're doing. So just to start, when they hear Artist Boat, I don't know if the first thing they jump to is environment. So tell us a little about the great kind of nexus of environmental work and art that you're thinking about.
Okay. Well, I'm Karla Klay. I'm the executive director, and my background is in fine arts and marine biology. I have degrees in both. And so the nexus between art and science, I think, are really like these communities of practice that people develop a practice as an artist or a biologist or a scientist or some kind of investigative process sparked by curiosity and awe. And so I wanted to combine the art with science through experiential learning in place. And that probably sounds complicated, but it's very simple. We take people outdoors. Our biggest program is our Eco Art Workshop and Kayak Adventure, which we do for thousands of youth. We go into the classroom, we learn about watersheds, estuaries, the ocean, rivers like, you know, Galveston Bay. Then they also learn how to make a portrait of a native species.
Mm.
Uh, Students today can identify over 600 logos and tell you what the companies do basically, but not native species in their backyard.
Mm.
Then they come on the kayak adventure, they learn to paddle with a partner, so there's lots of social and emotional learning. And then they see what they learned in the workshop firsthand. We go back over the functions of an estuary and a marsh, and then they also learn how to make a plein air watercolor.
Mm.
And now climate change and sea level rise and all these, what I call the invisible science, but a lot of science is invisible, but nature is very visible typically. We've added a blue carbon workshop where they learn about climate change, global warming, and all the different parts of that science, and then they learn how to translate knowledge through conceptual art. So for us, it would be very hard to untie the art from the science.
So I hear everything you're saying because I know your work. I've got a little bit of a head start here, but just for listeners, I mean, what I'm hearing you say is, you're doing arts education or arts-based education around science, nature, native plants, blue carbon, all these really exciting kind of concepts around environmental questions broadly in our backyard. I think the piece that folks are probably not familiar with, because that feels very, like something I think folks can understand immediately is like, yeah, okay, we want to use art to teach science. And that's a great concept and seems easy to latch on to. I think what folks probably don't know is that you're also a really impressive conservation organization around Galveston. You're doing a tremendous amount of work to actually purchase and protect land around Galveston, all over the island and the bay. And you've got some amazing sites that you guys are preserving that you actually get to take folks out to. So, can you talk a little bit about that conservation mission?
Oh, sure. So, well, our mission is to promote awareness and preservation of the coastal margins and the marine environment through science and art. And land conservation is definitely a tool used by scientists. So we're using that tool. I wish we were saving land all over the bay and all over the island, but actually we're saving land across like a 3 mile distance, which is really big for the island. It's 10% of the
Wow.
island's length. So we've conserved 1,039 acres. We have 3 miles of protected living shoreline now of marshes and wetlands. And we're working now on what we call an interior relic dune core area. So the bay travels into the island via sloughs and wetlands that move from saltwater marsh to high marsh to freshwater marshes. And water also moves from the ocean across the island into dunes and sloughs. So like the whole island is a fabric of sand connected by island passages, which are
Mm.
highly disrupted now because of development. So the next 204 acres that we're saving will complete most of a 3 mile distance between 8 Mile Road and 11 Mile Road of this relic dune core area that is, it's not against the ocean and it's not against the bay, but it's still very highly valuable and biodiverse because it's full of microhabitats that allow for all different kinds of species to be there. So, but to date, we've raised and deployed $24.2 million for land conservation, and our next acquisition is 204 acres. It's a $16 million acquisition, and
Mm.
we still need to raise $3.5 million by June 26th. 2026, we have to secure all the funding and work to close. Maybe by that date too. It just depends how successful we are at the next part of fundraising.
So, how much land in total? Because I know it's a huge number of acres. Have you actually bought to preserve and save?
1,039 acres. It's
Wow.
it's big for the island. It's not Big Bend big, but it's big.
I mean, for Galveston, yeah, Galveston's not that big a place. So tell me,
Right.
what are some of the biggest challenges facing the areas that you're protecting right now, and why is it important to purchase those for protection?
Well, all islands are places that people seek to go for vacation and seek to have second homes. And Galveston is 45 minutes from the fifth largest metroplex in the United States. So if you can afford to be at the ocean or the bay in 45 minutes, why wouldn't you, right? Like people could be here on the weekends. So there's very big pressure for second home development, which drives up the land values. It also makes the markets highly speculative and hard to conserve land in. We've been fortunate to have willing sellers. They're developers, and they are have all gone developing for some amount of time if we can raise the money and close on different parcels.
I mean, that's exciting because I think we think of Houston as so developer led. that I mean, it does
It
seem
is.
encouraging to think, okay, there are ways of working with developers. And I imagine some of that is understanding that one of the great natural resources, one of the great draws of Galveston is the ability to get out into nature, is the ability to go out fishing, be out in these natural preserve areas to get to see them, and the recognition of the important ecological role those play, not even just for wildlife and plants and habitat, but for the resilience of the island itself. And so, can you talk a little about the importance of the land from that kind of resilience perspective?
I'm sure. And I always tell people, people think Galveston is like Galveston's, but Galveston is an asset of the Galveston, Houston Metroplex area of almost 8 million people. 50% of our visitors are from Houston. So we're as important to Houston as the Houston Museum of Fine Arts or the Houston Museum of Natural Science or whatever the stadium is the football players play in that I can't think of the name of right now, right? We are an
NRG.
asset like that. And so for resiliency, we're the first line of defense for hurricanes.
Mhm.
The more natural the island is, the more tooth there is when the hurricane comes over the landscape to slow that down. The more wetlands there are, the slower the hurricane gets. And the barrier island actually has its name from being a barrier to storms for the mainland. Um, so there's that resilience just from its actual like geological presence. And then the wetlands retain and the prairies hold water and let it out slowly when there is big floods to storm and surge. And then we really have to think about natural disasters really in a more national context because when we have a disaster and we lose homes and people lose their places to live, they're all part of the FEMA flood insurance flood pool for the most part. So the taxpayer has the burden of restoring the community to some degree, right? Whether it's a fire like happens in California, whether it's an earthquake, whether it's a volcano, whether, it's these huge tornadoes that come across Oklahoma. We all have to chip in as taxpayers. And so when you don't have those homes you know, on the land, then you don't have to pay for their replacement. And these are not the land we have been buying would not have been slated for middle income homes or first homes. It's really primarily second homes.
Mm.
Um, and then so there's flood mitigation. Also, all properties that are permanently conserved, if you're in a coastal county or city, which Harris County also is, there's the community rating system. And so you get a lower flood cost in your city or county, depending on how they're doing it, based on how many acres you have of permanently conserved land, based on the elevation of your HVA systems. Like there's all these points you get for doing more resilient things to buildings and homes and to your landscape. And so one of the ways you get points is through conserved land. So like the Harris County Flood District is very involved in land acquisition right now for these community rating system points and hazard mitigation. Uh, on the island, we don't have like, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of coastal prairie, but we do have a lot that we can do to make our region more resilient.
No, and I think we all understand the importance. I mean, both the vulnerability of Galveston, but also the importance of Galveston as, yeah, that first site that hurricanes are going to come through, and thinking about how can we buffer those natural defenses as much as we can. So, I mean, I think that's really important to note. I want to pivot back a little bit now towards the art side and thinking about, that core that core role of artist vote. And just to open, I mean, just to start with, can you tell me a little bit about what teaching these, often kind of complex scientific concepts to kids how does bringing art into it change that process? What does it unlock for them? How does it change how they think about it? Why are you so excited to use art to teach that?
Well, that is a great and very hard question. I have to think about that. But for example, when they come kayaking, maybe they don't understand all of the concepts of science that we've taught them. Like, how is the marsh holding water and letting it out slowly? We're probably not going to see that happen, right? But when they sit in the kayak and they learn to make a plein air watercolor and it's quiet and it's beautiful and the birds come closer and they have the ability to use their hands and their eyes, and there's no, like, the input is not words, the input is the environment, right? They make a connection. Then that connection that's heartfelt makes the mind more open to conceptual um, acquisition of knowledge, in my opinion, right? Like, 2 plus 2 isn't very important to anybody, right?
Hmm.
But having $4 is important. How do you get the 2 plus 2, right? Or, I could have twins or twice, or I could have four babies in a row, right? That's really simple math, but the visualization of the four babies in a row or having twins twice, I'm like, well, I don't want four babies, period, now, right? Like, I don't know if I'm saying it well, but for example, on the seawall, we have the Project Sit, which are all these hand painted interpretive benches.
Hmm.
Some of them have, like, the concepts are painted of hurricane tracking. And so that artist really figured out, how can I visually explain hurricane tracking, which is usually like a cone on some weird map, that has the outline of the Gulf of Mexico. It's not very visually attractive, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you know, but I think the more disciplines, the the more visual learning can be, the easier it is on the learner, because we are visually oriented by design
Mm.
as beings, right? Like, we unless you're blind, that is a primary sense that is used from the moment you're born. And so I think using that as the venue for learning is relaxing. And then it's frequently the way we experience awe, which there's lots of studies that when we experience awe, we have a desire to learn more about that thing, that place, and we are more motivated to steward it.
No, I totally hear you. And I mean, I think that's a great place actually to hint at some of that role because I think art allows for a connection to, awe, as you were just saying, this kind of idea of the awesome, the sublime. It allows us to find really personal connection. The idea of, I love the idea of, those portraits you were describing of native plants, right? I don't think many of us, if we're thinking of portraiture, we're not jumping to plants as the first place that we're thinking about. We're probably thinking of, an art gallery and a whole collection of old looking portraits that were done a century ago.
People.
Exactly. And I think there's something interesting to thinking about what are the kind of practices of care, of time, of what you have to learn about it. Certainly, we learn things like we know, okay, well, these are the parts of the plant, these are the things I'm learning about it as I'm going through studying it. But to actually sit and to be with it and to touch it, to feel, to think about how to communicate that onto a page is just a whole different kind of set of skills that I don't think we get to play with as much in the sciences, and it's one of the places that, we certainly will go out. I think plenty of my scientist peers, at Rice, will take their students out and they'll look and they'll see and they'll touch. But it's also much more collecting samples. It's not trying to capture something. It's not trying
Right.
to think about, how do you depict this? How do I almost give life to it in a different way? And that feels like it involves just a whole different kind of set of skills that can bring folks who are maybe more comfortable with that to the table, but also force those who are, okay, I'm just looking at the plant and it has a role and a function. I think it makes us stop and reconsider a little bit, what is this plant doing in this moment?
Right. And we teach, they can choose animal species too, but
Mm,
it's the same effect. Mostly they're probably choosing animals, but we also use plants a lot. And there is a current theory of plant blindness that the most colors of green exist and that people used to know many, many plants. Now people know very few plants and they know very few colors of green. Like it all looks green, like
mm,
it's one green. Like when you ask people to draw a landscape, they just use one color for green. But if you look at a landscape, there's many colors of green ranging from beige to like bright lime green to yellows or greens with reds in them. And it can even like out here, if you don't have to learn all the plants, but if you look for changes in the plant's color, you can start to notice what elevation the plants are growing at because the lower the color, the more wet, and the higher the color, the more dry. It might be on the back of an ancient dune. But when you were talking about drawing, I was thinking about when I took vertebrate zoology. So I majored in drawing at SMU, and then I took my marine biology degree, and you have to take vertebrate zoology in all biology programs. And they want you to draw the specimens, but nobody teaches you how to draw the specimens. But most students, they just try to get like a mimeograph and they label the parts. But
mm,
I would use the whole 3 hours and draw all the specimens and make 100s on all my vertebrate zoology lab tests. And then the instructor said, Karla, can you help the other students or could you copy your drawings for them? And I said, well, I'm learning from the drawing. If I give them my drawing, they're not learning because that drawing of like these veins or these arteries or this part of the pig's heart or whatever, the drawing of it is was the memory, right? So once I make that drawing of whatever the vertebrate animal is, and I've memorized the parts because I drew it, then it's much easier for me to say the function or the adaptation or the change of that part of that specimen compared to another person. Same in art history class, I would draw all the slides, little sketches as they're talking. I can go back and look at all the paintings or Egypt or whatever, but the drawing of the on Heptude or whatever it was how I remembered that. So part of the muscle memory of drawing can be critical and very helpful for learning. And so we want children and adults to experience that part of it. Like when you notice all the marsh grass is not the same height and some of it's taller and bezier. Well, then you wonder, why is it like that? Oh, that has seeds on it. Oh, why does that have seeds now and the others don't? Like that inquiry that happens with art can also be part of the awe.
mm.
It helps you notice more.
Can you tell me a little bit? Because I know you take students, and I think you take other members of the public out occasionally as well. But there's a number of tours of the land that you've preserved that you take folks out to. Can you just walk me through a little what folks would experience if they were to go on a tour? What do the students get to do when they go out there?
Oh, well, so if they're coming to kayak, they meet us at a gate with their school bus. And then, of course, we welcome them. They have three rules. They have to learn of respect. They have to respect their leader. They're just meeting us and we're taking them on kayaks, right? So they have to immediately listen to us for safety. They have to respect each other, right? Like if you're my partner and I've never paddled with you, I can't just yell at you, go right or left all day. You won't go anywhere. And then they have to respect the environment, right? Because we're taking them to a fragile place. We walk a 1/4 mile trail to our kayak pavilion. It's through the coastal prairie and there's a little oak motte. A lot of the students come from Houston or Clear Lake or Texas City. We have a lot from Galveston, but we're kind of the wildest place they've ever been, Weston. Like
Mm.
they sometimes have asked, am I going to see a hippo? Or where are the snakes? Or I don't like bugs. So there is like this threshold of fear for a lot of them.
Mm.
But also, they're not in a place where there's hallways or windows, right? They are free to some point. Then we teach them how to properly wear a personal flotation device, which a lot of people don't know how to do. We teach them four strokes and how to maneuver their kayak with a partner. And then we load their lunches and all our gear, and we teach them how to get in and out of the kayaks, how to steer with their partner. And we head down what we call a channel. It's part of the Spanish Grand Canal, and it's natural on both sides, and then we go around a corner into the marsh. If it's super flat, the kayaking is really easy. If it's very
Mm.
windy, it takes a long time. But we stop, and then we talk about the functions of a wetland. We point out the Spartina alterniflora, the marsh grass, the sediments. So, everything that we can talk about, for the most part, we can see.
Mm.
We do have science equipment aboard. Some of the classes design before they come. We have more than one workshop, and they design an inquiry-based question that can be answered with the equipment we have. So the questions can vary, but we can measure salinity, chemical parameters, DO, dissolved oxygen. We can take sediment course, things like that. But it has to be a question that they can answer with data that they can collect that day. So I don't want to imply they're doing like long-term science. Then they do that, and then we teach them how to make the plein air watercolor in a very traditional, standard way with typical art skills. But you know,
What does that look like?
well, like I would sit in the kayak facing them. I show them how to use contour line to like flesh
Mm.
out their composition. Like where do you want your water to meet the marsh? Where do you want it to go in or out of the marsh? Where do you want your horizon to be? uh we want them to notice that the blue comes down and among all the grasses, the water comes in and out of all the grasses, but there's different color changes and heights. And then we teach them how, if they want clouds in there, things like that, how to conserve the white. It's in watercolor, so a lot of people think that's a challenging medium, but it's a very fast medium and non-toxic. But they're in their kayak, and it's pretty quiet. There's probably wind, a little bit of wind. There's a lot of greens, and they can hear birds. Gosh, it's hard to describe visually. But when you're in the kayak and you're stopped in the grass, your feet are surrounded by grasses, and the sky is coming in and down and all around you, and it's quiet. There's no HVA systems, there's no roads, there's none of the noise or that hum that we're used to when we live
Mm.
inside an urban area. So that's pretty fabulous. And then we do pre and post surveys and external evaluation, and the kids tell us things like my some of my favorite quotes is, I've never been anywhere that I could choose when to go left or right, that there weren't
Mm.
signs telling you where the
Mm.
road is. Another student wrote that, I wish that my mom could have come, because if she could feel like I did today, she would never do drugs again.
Oh,
So, like, this is serious stuff that has nothing to do with the art or science.
yeah.
Really, it's heartbeat. It has to do with our heart connection to nature and what that can do for humans, mental health, spiritual health, physical health.
No, that's really critical.
Mhm.
We're coming up on the end of our time, so I'd love
Oh,
to
okay.
hear a little more about if folks want to learn more about artists, but if they want to get involved, if they want to go out, if they want to support your work, how can they do so?
Well, our favorite thing for people to do right now is to become be one in a million. Our goal is to get 1 million people to donate $10 so that the heavy work of saving land can become lighter. And right now, we need $3 million in donations that don't come from state or federal grants to leverage our state and federal grants that we've raised to save the next land, which we've raised 13.2 million, I think. I'm trying to remember all these numbers, but so you can go to our website and find out about any of our programs. But on the weekends, we kayak with the general public. We have open volunteer work days twice or 4 times a month where you can come and actually do restoration and help steward the preserve. We're actually looking for 5 schools right now to participate in one of our NOAA Be Wet grants to
Hmm.
bring their students out to do these programs. And the programs are free for those teachers, but it does include professional development and some other obligations of time on their part. Um, and then we are having our annual fundraiser, but I think this will air after that's over. But you could request to follow us on Facebook or get our newsletter. We love for corporations to come and do stewardship restoration activities on the land together. Your students could come as a group and have an environmental journalist assignment if they wanted to write about restoration. So, pretty much we're open here for habitat restoration, kayak adventures, and we also have a bird observatory that's open dawn to dusk. If you go to our website, you can find that and how to get there. But you don't have to be a birder to use the bird observatory, though,
So much
or
going
to
on,
be
so
on.
many things to learn about. And the website is artistboat.org, right?
Yes, artistboat.org. And you can always call us and ask any question you like to. We love phone calls.
It's fantastic. Karla, thanks so much for sharing all this great work and letting us know a little bit more about what Artist Boat is up to. Now we'll go to our researcher, Sarah, who has a piece all about the impact that fashion has on the environment and the ways that people are trying to reimagine our relationship to what we wear to be a little bit greener.
Hey, it's Sarah. Today, we're talking about something that's a part of all of our lives, the clothes that we wear. Specifically, I'm touching on the phenomenon of the rise of ultra-fast fashion, a system that's been built on overproduction, overconsumption, and a constant turnover of clothing production. The fashion industry is responsible for nearly 10% of global carbon emission. That's more than international flights and shipping combined. Synthetic fabrics shed microplastics into our oceans, and tons of unsold clothes end up burned or dumped in landfills every single day. Around 60% of the clothes we wear are made from synthetic fibers like polyester. And the thing is, they don't really break down. Every time we do laundry, they release tiny microplastics that end up in our rivers, oceans, and even the food we eat. But there's a shift happening. More people are starting to rethink how they buy, wear, and create clothing. And thrifting has become a forefront for an outlet to this overconsumption. Thrifting has become a small but powerful way to push back against the waste and speed of fast fashion. It's a way to be creative, intentional, and sustainable all at once. And here at Rice University, one student led group is taking that idea even further by making sustainability fashionable again. I'm sitting down with the co presidents of InThread, Rice's one and only fashion organization, to talk about all things thrifting, creativity, and what it means to lead a community that's redefining style on campus. So, just to start off, can you guys introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how InThread and the club got started?
My name is Iggy. I'm a sophomore. I'm from Hanson. I haven't introduced myself. My name is Ella, and I'm also a sophomore at Hanson. This is our third annual runway show. So the founders were Sharon Lowe and Alice Bien, and they graduated last year, like because they're Archies. I think they're doing a year of like work, and then they're coming back to finish their final year. But yeah, they graduated, so we kind of like took over the club.
Like in general, what do you guys think makes InThread like unique in comparison to other organizations at Rice?
I think for one, we're the only like fashion club on campus. We're like fashion runway. Like we
Yeah.
host like a runway show featuring like student models, designers, photographers. I felt like that's pretty unique. Like I don't think there's another club like on Rice, at least I've heard of that does that. So
So in general, what role do you guys think that like thrifted or secondhand materials play in your guys' like creative process for like these yearly fashion shows?
So I feel like for me, just like personally, over the summer, even like before that, I would like thrift things from like stores and like upcycle them. It was really fun. Also, I would make outfits for like some of the themed parties last year, like the Publix. And so I would like thrift things and then I would like upcycle them. And I feel like for me, sometimes it's really interesting because when you're thrifting something, it's like it has like it's kind of like a surprise. Like you don't really anticipate, you don't have anything in mind going in. It's like, oh wow, I found this like really cool like fabric or texture, like color that I wasn't really anticipating. So I felt like that was really fun for me. But also like over the summer, like just like personally, over the summer, there's stuff like bed sheets or just like use old bed sheets or like old clothes and then like yeah, like upcycle them. I feel like that was really fun.
I think a lot of our designers from the runway show last year, a lot of them used like thrifted material. There was this
Mm.
one really cool project. I think he got this like knitted blanket and
Oh
he,
yeah, he thrifted it.
yeah,
Yeah, it was really good. It was by like his name is like Andrew.
I think
Yeah,
so.
he graduated as well, which is kind of unfortunate, but the look was like really good. It was like this like white knit blanket thing connecting both models. So it was like two models like walked together and they were connected by the garment. It was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that that kind of like speaks to like how like thrifting was like incorporated in like to the show. And a
Yeah.
lot of the show is also based on like yeah, like also our theme obviously for this year it's verdancy. And so we really try to tie that to like creativity, but also sustainability and like giving like clothes like a longer life or kind of like just like renewal, like yeah, regeneration, like that sort of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Also, I think a lot of the in-thread materials, we have a fabric closet where
Mm.
designers can like pick materials out of, and those are completely based off of donations, which is like a lot of like thrifted fabrics in there.
Mhm.
And then I remember last year as it was for part of my sculpture class, but the in-thread co-presidents then they came in and they taught us how to sew, and then we were able to access the fabric material and make
Mhm.
something really cool. So I was able to use this sort of curtain material. I used this sort of like linen curtains, and then I
Mhm.
sort of just like sewed a dress out of it.
Mhm.
So for like both of you guys, have you guys always been interested in the thrifting scene, or is it something that you found out about as, you know, you like entered college?
Mhm.
For me, I didn't always thrift. I started doing it more after I entered college, after like I met people who thrifted, like you. And, yeah, it was really
Yeah.
fun.
I think I definitely had an interest in it before college, but also I feel like one thing is that I feel like when I buy something new, like now or even when I thrift something, I feel like I have some rules for myself and it's like first like if I think I can make it, I'm not gonna buy it. And I think that that really helped me like cut down on like a lot of purchases that I would like I feel like is more like impulsively like a purchase. And then second thing is I think that like also like even when I'm thrifting things, I really try to like look at something and be like, oh, is this actually gonna go with like my out like stuff I already have or not? Like, am I actually gonna want to wear it over other things in my closet? Like, am I gonna reach for it like when I like open like my closet? And I feel like because like I think I was like pretty into thrifting like even throughout high school, but even a lot of the things that I thrifted, I was just like it was kind of like an in the moment thing. Like obviously thrifting is also like a very like a super like sustainable alternative compared to like buying new or buying fast fashion. Yeah, like my even like with thrifting, I've been involved with it since high school, but I think that my like process of like approaching it has changed. Yeah, and even just like with buying things in general, like I think that like now observing like my wardrobe, I feel like there's like a few pieces that I just like love a lot and I wear like all the time. And then I feel like it's like, yeah, like if I want to even thrift something, I want it to be something that I will wear all the time and that I really, really like. Because also there's like thrift blindness, like stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's really fun though. It's like a treasure hunt. Yeah.
I mean, it's really funny because my parents, they've always been like, why would you buy secondhand? We work so hard so you can like only have nice clothes. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I don't get it. Like it's like
Mhm.
it's so much better for the environment and it's just like it's also really like enjoyable. Like I find it like it's kind of like what you're talking about. It is like a treasure hunt where it's like you stop viewing it as something like where you can just click a button on a computer and get anything that you want,
Yeah.
right? Like at the whim of anything to like
Yeah.
really like consciously like trying to find pieces that could be in your closet for like you know like timeless pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I just like started thrifting very recently, so
Mhm.
Yeah.
but I think it's a really fun thing to do. You get to find like a lot more styles, and then especially because like it's secondhand, so I think that's a really cool thing about it too. giving it like multiple lives.
Yeah, I think especially a lot of like vintage things.
I was gonna ask like how you see Houston with like all its thrift stores, like art scene, etc., like how shapes the way like students engage with sustainable fashion and thrifting. But honestly, you're quite right. Like with the fact that a lot of the ones in Houston, unfortunately, like are have become more like functioning as corporations, like ending up.
Yeah, and it's very overpriced for stuff that's like low key, like really bad quality. Like, not saying like all of them, but like specific ones. I do feel like I'm like, bro, like this is not. Yeah.
No, yeah, I honestly really agree with that. Do you like for students that do like want to get more into
Mhm.
just sustainable fashion, thrifting, do you have any like recommendations on how to get into that? Like for someone that is like new?
Oh, I mean, like, there's also like actually, because like when I first got here, it was from one of my friends that I went thrifting with. She's from Brown, actually, not from Hanson, but we went, and then she had like a friend that lived here and gave her a ton of recommendations. So we just we picked out like she had like a whole list, so we picked out like a few places, and then we just like went to like two or three of them. It was like a Saturday. It was really fun. But yeah, that's like how I think I like started going through. But also just like I feel like the internet, like everything's really accessible these days. And there's like so many people like on Instagram or just if you like put it into like Apple Maps or something like thrifting or like yeah, like like Instagram like Reels, like whatever. Like I feel like it's super
Yeah.
accessible. So
And also we're collaborating with the Office of Sustainability.
yeah.
So they've like told us about like a lot of these
Oh yeah, a lot of
things.
like organizations that are like focused on sustainable like fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're sponsored by the Office of Sustainability, like
Mm.
InThread is. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and then we can just like promote these at our club meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
also doing that.
Do you guys see like InThread ever potentially like partnering with any like thrift stores in Houston, any like stores in
Oh, I
general?
mean, you would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a super big team, but I feel like if that opportunity did arise or like we were like I think that yeah, we would love for that to happen. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's very possible, especially because the Office of Sustainability has so many connections.
Yeah, they've been really, really helpful. And they've also connected us with like the Center of Environmental Studies.
Mhm.
Yeah, like our main budget, like a big chunk of our budget comes from them.
How do you guys see thrifting evolving in like the next maybe like 5, 10 years? Like especially as like sustainability is obviously becoming a bigger priority in fashion.
Hmm. I don't know. Like I think like definitely compared to like I don't know how long ago, but like it's definitely like a much bigger thing now than it was like in yeah, like maybe the last decade. Like I think it's been like on the rise a ton, like Depop, like all of that. I really also I guess I'm like also curious about it because I don't know like where like fast fashion is gonna go. Like at what point is it gonna like because I feel like at one point there is gonna be a point where it like it can't just like keep expanding forever.
I think for me, like it was never really a
Hmm.
big part of my life, but then like I feel like it's been getting trendier to thrift,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
yeah,
that's exactly like what I wanted to say. But yeah. So I think that's a good thing. I
yeah.
mean, mostly. But also it's like, oh, if you're like thrifting, then like yeah. Like I think that is for the
Yeah.
main part a good thing.
Especially
Mhm.
internet, especially because like E has he's Instagram famous.
Not
Really?
really. Not really.
Yes.
Not really.
Wait. You have a page dedicated to like is it like a page
Like
dedicated
a
to
sewing page. I'm trying to like get more into it like during the school year, but I'm also just like super busy, so it's like hard to keep up
Mhm.
with that. But I do post stuff that's like upcycles and like mending, like stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
as one of her fans,
all right, bro. All right, bro. All right, bro.
I see her videos like on Instagram every so often, and then like she thrifts and she shows her like thrifted finds and then her upcycling, and I think it's so cool, and I think it's like very inspiring as well.
Yeah, but like I think I try to like balance it out with like thrifting and upcycling versus like buying like fabric. And when I buy fabric, I do try to buy like dead stock fabric and stuff. Like I just try to like I try to be like, I try to be like very conscious of it, but I think that at the end of the day, like if you're making something, you are gonna have to like buy new things, which is like kind of like consumerism.
No, I agree. And honestly, it's really great how you guys, it's not just like another club. It's like it's very clearly like both of you guys like have a genuine sincere interest and passion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in the future, like honestly, like you can think as wild as you could possibly think. Like how do you hope InThread could potentially influence the rice community and just like the larger conversation around fashion and just sustainability?
Wow, I think I was actually talking to like one of my friends the other day about this. I think like something that I would really like to see that like maybe in the future, because like right now it's like yes, like the show has been getting more and more popular. Like a lot of people have been coming, which is really great. But like it's not like, oh, this is like a major thing that like people like they like the average, I guess, like Rice student would like know of. Like if you say like in thread, they'd probably be like, what's that? You know? But I think that if we ever get to a point, like probably I'm thinking like maybe after like we graduate, but like I think what would be really, really cool is if we had a show that was like a section of the inner loop.
Yeah.
And then I also think another thing is just like I feel like if the club could be like more involved in like the larger Houston community, or just like yeah, like other yeah, because like something where as Ella said, like something we're trying to do this year is like plug more like sustainability things like at our event and stuff like that that's related. But yeah, like because like right now I would honestly say like even like just at the scale it is now, it's like it's a lot of work because like you need to have like find spaces, like the budget, like like plan everything out, like and like so I would say it's
Yeah.
already a lot of work. Yeah.
Sorry. What we're trying to do right now though is like we're
Mhm.
trying to collab with the UH campus and
Yeah.
HCC. So we've been talking with their fashion clubs over there, and it looks like we're gonna collab with them for our runway show this year.
Yeah, so they'll have like some designers that are also
Yeah.
participating in the show,
So
which
hopefully we
I
can
think,
get
well, yeah,
more
which
new
I think
audience
is really
as
great
well.
because I think that, yeah, race sometimes is like kind of like a bubble.
Can you mention like one just like general positive role that thrifting has been like as an outlet for like both of your guys' like lives or that you've seen in others?
And I have this one friend who he went to Dallas recently to meet two other friends, and then he named like them, and then he was like, thrifting is definitely a canon event between the three of them. So it's definitely like a big part of a lot of people's social lives, I think.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to speak with me. It was really great to see because like it's one thing to be passionate about like thrifting, upcycling, and everything, but like to also like apply that in real time through like in thread and like your Instagram, which is like you're like low key an influencer, and just like no, it's really interesting and it's really important. I also think for like youth to hear other youth voices like that are
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like we try to keep like an open mind
Mhm.
to anything. And I guess yeah, for me it's like I think that like even after college, because I've taken like some philosophy classes. So I feel like that's like yeah, it's just like different ideas, especially like in college. So
Well, thank you guys so much.
We hope you enjoyed the interview and hope that hearing from InThread inspires you to go out there and explore the world of thrifting and sustainability. Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Finally, our researcher Neman will talk you through eco labels, what to look for, what to avoid, and what greenwashing is doing to making living environmentally just a little bit harder.
It's your day to go grocery shopping. You stand in the grocery aisle, examining all of your seemingly endless choices closely. You pick up a box of your desired item and decide to turn the box over to read the fine print. As you skim over the box, you see logos like the green leaf and words like biodegradable and carbon neutral, organic, and regenerative. It's a situation that many of us have found ourselves in. But what do these words mean? Who issues them, and who polices them? In this segment, we'll begin to demystify some of the most common eco-labels, exploring where regulation ends and where marketing begins. A coffee cup or plant-based straw may be labeled as biodegradable, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will degrade harmlessly back into nature. In California, truth in labeling laws warn that these environmental labels and claims must be supported by scientific evidence and comply with state standards. Products marketed as compostable in the state have to meet ASTM standards, such as D6400 for compostable plastics, and must carry labeling that identifies them as compostable. This ensures that they'll break down in industrial composting sites, not in a backyard heap or landfill. However, many other U.S. states and countries lack such clear rules. The Federal Trade Commission's green guides provide non-binding guidance that discourages broad claims like green or eco-friendly, and warns marketers that they need proof that products are recyclable or degradable. However, because the guides aren't legally enforceable, companies can make vague claims with minimal consequences. Further, an item marked 100% recyclable might technically be recyclable, yet few facilities accept it. The FTC's Green Guides notes that a product should be marketed as recyclable only if a substantial majority, about 60%, of consumers have access to recycling programs that accept it. Some states, like California, go further and prohibit labels such as, quote, recyclable or, quote, biodegradable unless the manufacturer can show that the product will actually break down and be recovered. When in doubt, look for third-party certifications such as the Chasing Arrows recycling symbol with a number that indicates the type of plastic, or check your local recycler's guidelines. Unlike many green terms, organic actually has a clear legal definition in the United States. Under USDA regulations, products labeled organic must contain at least 95% organic ingredients, excluding water and salt, with the remaining ingredients restricted to those on the national list. Products labeled made with organic must contain at least 70% organic ingredients and cannot use the USDA organic seal. These standards are enforced by accredited certifying agents who inspect farms and processing facilities. Consumers who buy USDA-certified organic goods can be confident that synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, and genetically modified organisms were not used in production. Recently, terms like carbon neutral and net zero have also become increasingly popular. Companies often make these claims by purchasing carbon offsets, but courts and regulators are increasingly scrutinizing these offsets. A federal judge allowed a class action lawsuit against Danone Waters to move forward because plaintiffs argued that labeling Evian water carbon neutral misled consumers into believing that no emissions were produced at all. The court found that the term carbon neutral is technical, ambiguous, and could confuse consumers, and that Danone's claim could plausibly be deceptive. The decision cited the FTC's Green Guides, which cautioned against making unqualified environmental benefit claims. Across the ocean, the European Parliament recently voted to ban labels like climate neutral and climate positive when they rely on carbon offsetting schemes. From 2026 on, products and services in the EU may only use such terms if they can provide evidence of actual emissions reductions, and broad claims like biodegradable or eco will require proof. Consumers should be wary of carbon neutral claims that aren't backed by transparent data on emissions reductions and offsets. Now, on the topic of regenerative agriculture, you may have seen coffee or chocolate marketed as regeneratively grown. While regenerative agriculture focuses on practices like cover cropping, low-till farming, and rotational grazing that improve soil health and biodiversity, there is no legal or regulatory definition of the term. Farmers and scientists agree on general principles, but because there's no standard, companies can use the term loosely in marketing. Some voluntary certification programs do exist, such as Regenerative Organic Certified, but they're not required. A food policy analysis by Foodprint notes that new USDA guidelines on environmental and animal welfare claims merely ask producers to explain what a term like sustainably grown or pasture-raised means. They do not set enforceable standards. Without clear regulations, the term regenerative risks becoming another buzzword. These eco-labels can help consumers make choices aligned with their values, but they can also present opportunities for misleading marketing. When evaluating these labels, make sure to, firstly, look for third-party certifications. USDA Organic, Fair Trade, Forest Stewardship Council, and B Corp certifications involve independent audits and clear standards. Secondly, be aware of claims like eco-friendly or biodegradable without specifics. Ask whether the product will actually break down in your compost bin or be recycled in your community. Thirdly, demand transparency. Credible companies disclose how they calculate carbon footprints, what offsets they purchase, and how they ensure those offsets are real. The Danone case shows that companies are being challenged on their carbon neutral claims. Finally, watch out for regulatory changes. The EU's forthcoming ban on offset-based climate claims suggests a global tightening of green marketing rules. Sometimes reading labels might be boring, but understanding them empowers us as consumers. As you shop for groceries or household goods, remember that organic has a strong meaning, recyclable depends on your local infrastructure, biodegradable only applies under certain conditions, and regenerative is largely unregulated, and carbon neutral isn't always what it seems. Make sure to ask questions, look up certification bodies, and support brands that prioritize clear, verifiable sustainability over slick marketing.
That's our show for this week. If you have questions or ideas for what you'd like featured on Gulf Streams, leave a voicemail at 713-348-4081. That's 713-348-4081. Or email us at westonT@rice.edu. A quick reminder that you can catch up on Gulf Streams anytime through our podcast, available on all major podcast platforms. If you enjoy the show, please like and subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode. World Streams is a co-production of KPFT Houston and Rice's Center for Environmental Studies and the Rice Sustainability Institute's Eco Studio. Produced by Weston Twardowski. Original music by Carter Dean. Research support provided by Sara Tabras and Antara Varma. Stay tuned for No Expectations with Marcus French here on KPFT Houston 90.1 FM, Galveston 89.5 FM, and Huntsville 89.7 FM.